Okay, let's dive right into this. Today's explainer isn't your typical analysis of data or historical events. Instead, we're unpacking a really fascinating, grimdark fable drawn from a pretty profound philosophical text. We're stepping into the world of silver reflections in the mud. Now, instead of looking at this from the ground up, the source material frames this whole narrative from a completely detached celestial height. It's a parable about meaning, our struggles, and, well, ultimate futility, all told through a cosmic lens.
I am the moon spirit, the silver weaver, watching from my celestial height as the threads of the forge and the frost entwine within the city of mirrors in the mud. So, our narrator for this journey is the moon spirit. Right off the bat, this entity establishes a totally indifferent perspective. As a celestial weaver looking down at the physical world, the moon spirit views the doings of men as just mere flickers in a vast tapestry. To a celestial eye, those categories we hold so dear, the things we passionately label as noble or ignoble, they're all viewed with a cold, absolute, and equal indifference.
And where exactly does this all take place? Down below, in what the text calls the city of mirrors in the mud. This is our physical realm. I want you to imagine this surreal cosmic playhouse where rain falls like liquid lead right at the threshold of the void. In this setting, the raw, empty potential of the universe experiences these tiny, brief, transient agitations. And those agitations? Well, that's us. That's humanity. And in this muddy, mirrored city, two incredibly profound architects of the soul are about to meet. Act 1, The Architect of the Forge. Meet the Red Spectre. Now, in the context of this fable, the specter represents a messy, chaotic rebellion against the emptiness of the universe. He actually accepts the title of the ignoble soul. He openly admits his origins lie in pure nihilism and ancient, messy mischief. As a former executioner, he once looked at existence and saw nothing but a meaningless error. But, and this is absolutely crucial, rather than just surrendering to that, he passionately uses that terrifying realization as the very foundation for his fight. To fight back against that meaninglessness, the specter employs what the text calls the logic of the crucible. He absolutely refuses the silence of the void. Instead, he points to his own hands, which burn with the fire of imagination. His whole goal is to take the heavy, dull lead of history and aggressively melt it down. Out of that raw, chaotic heat, he is actively creating his own meaning, literally forging a new, life-affirming mythos through sheer force of will. My spirit of becoming is exhausting and raw, but it is a deed that refuses to gasp its last against the dark. You can almost feel the blistering heat radiating off this concept. It's a constant, agonizing struggle to maintain this fire. But for the specter, this desperate deed is completely worth it, because it's an active refusal to just give up and let his spark die against the encroaching dark.
Act 2, The Architect of Frost. Enter the monument of stagnation.
So, if the specter is a blazing fire, the monument is a silent, dignified pillar of stone. He proudly claims the title of the noble soul by offering perfect order. His philosophy is driven by the Thanatos drive. That's this philosophical compulsion toward death, stillness, and the final cessation of all internal friction. He looks at the red specter's exhausting, fiery struggle and calls it a violent lie. Instead, he offers the mercy of cold stone, basically peace through absolute stillness. To achieve this perfect stillness, the monument utilizes what the text brilliantly calls Apollonian gaskets. These represent rigid, frozen logic. He takes the noble dust of the old world and builds sovereign laws, creating a final architecture designed to bind up the chaotic, fluid spirit. For the monument, true nobility is found only in the flawless, unchanging perfection of the finished. And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict of our explainer. We have two drastically different approaches to existence laid out right side by side. On one side, the red specter, with his fire of imagination, his agonizing spirit of becoming, and the chaotic logic of the crucible. On the other side, the monument of stagnation, with the cold stone of logic, the peaceful cessation of friction, and his rigid Apollonian gaskets. It is the ultimate battle between messy, painful life and perfect, peaceful death. Act 3, The Final Meeting. The cosmic dialogue begins. The debate kicks off with a pretty chilling challenge. The monument of stagnation looks directly at the specter and asks, why suffer the agony of the forge when one can rest in the perfection of the finished? I mean, think about that.
He's asking, why endure the relentless exhaustion of trying to create meaning when you could simply embrace the peace of sovereign laws?
But right before the Spectre can defend his life-affirming mythos, the cosmic dialogue is interrupted. The moon spirit looks down at both the blazing forge and the frozen stone and delivers this devastatingly cold reminder. You both speak of worth as if the stars cared for the shape of your shadows. This total dismissal triggers a massive existential crisis for our characters. We actually see the Red Spectre's fiery resolve start to waver. He looks up at the moon spirit and asks, "Then is my struggle for authentic values nothing more than a brief agitation?" It hits him all at once that all his agonizing work in the Crucible, his entire life-affirming mythos, it might just be a meaningless, transient flicker in the void.
And that doubt stacks even further, eventually consuming the monument of stagnation as well. His dignified pillar of stone begins to crack as he quietly, falteringly questions his own ultimate purpose. He asks, and is my frozen order nothing more than a way the void consumes the light? Is his perfect hollow perfection really just a tomb of his own making, a mechanism by which the void simply eats the light faster? So, the crucial point here is the moon spirit's response, which is an uncompromising, total rejection of both their philosophies. To the spirit, the specter's agony is just a bright, transient flicker destined to gasp its last. And the monument's silence? It isn't some noble law. It's a gilded cage, acting as a tomb. Basically, contracts written in disappearing ink. Neither path holds a single drop of intrinsic value to the cosmos. Act 4. The Great Evening descends. As the great evening descends upon the city of mirrors in the mud, the ultimate equalizer is finally revealed. The broken bridge is crossed, and all efforts meet the exact same end. It turns out there is absolutely no difference between forging the steel of the future and rearranging the lead of the past. Whether you chose the exhausting, painful fire of the crucible or the rigid, gilded cage, it doesn't matter. Both philosophies are entirely swallowed by the dark. You are both flickers in the tapestry, destined to be woven back into the silver reflection of the mud. That is the moon spirit's final, indifferent verdict on the ultimate fate of all mortal endeavors. The noble and the ignoble dissolve into the exact same mud. All the fire, all the stone, all the frantic scrambling for meaning or order, you're all just flickers. And every single flicker is ultimately woven right back into the indifferent silver reflection of the void. And that brings us to the end of this incredibly rich, albeit pretty dark, explainer. It leaves us with a provocative final thought. In the face of absolute cosmic indifference, when the great evening awaits us all, how do you choose to spend your brief agitation? Do you embrace the chaotic, exhausting, fleeting fire of the crucible to forge your own temporary meaning? Or do you seek the peaceful, ordered, but ultimately hollow quiet of the stone? It's definitely a fascinating dilemma to ponder the next time you look up at the night sky.